Welcome everyone to your NXT Takeover War Games Talking Takeover review show here on the WRESTLEDUDE YouTube channel. Talking Takeover, where we will talk about the Takeover event that just took place. This is for NXT Takeover War Games from 11/17/2018. I am Jacob from the WRESTLEDUDE YouTube channel, and before we get started here today, if you guys would like to support this little review show on the WRESTLEDUDE YouTube channel, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to enjoy. I do this every time there's an NXT Takeover event, so it's basically like 4 little review shows every year, and then at the end of every year, I'll do a top 10 list on the top 10 Takeover matches of that year. So now that this takeover event is out of the way, now I can start writing my list for the top 10 takeover matches of 2018. So please subscribe if you would like to stay up to date on that and any other videos on this YouTube channel. But anyways, let's get into NXT Takeover War Games. So War Games this year, it started out, originally this was supposed to be only 4 matches on the show. The NXT Women's Championship match, Johnny Gargano versus Alistair Black, Tommaso Ciampa versus the Velveteen Dream for the NXT Championship, and then obviously the War Games match. Apparently on the kickoff show, which I do not watch, because I mean nothing really happens, it's just a whole bunch of like interviews and stuff, but apparently they had Matt Riddle on the kickoff show panel, like talking about stuff, and then Kassius Ohno came and was like bad-mouthing him. So when the show started, it started with Matt Riddle coming out to the ring with a microphone, so I didn't know what was going on here until like he mentioned Kassius Ohno. I was like, wait, they're doing this match now? Because originally, since we thought it was only going to be the 4 matches on the show, we all thought that maybe the Matt Riddle versus Kassius Ohno match would just take place on that TakeOver Fallout episode. But no, it happened here. Matt Riddle called out Kassius Ohno. Kassius Ohno said, like, you know what, bring it on. There's a referee. Ref, ring the bell. Kassius Ohno gets in the ring. The referee rings the bell. Matt Riddle immediately turns around and delivers a V-trigger, or like a running high knee, to Kassius Ohno and pins him. And I think what the time was, I think it was like 6 seconds. So the show opens, we did have 5 matches, and the show opens with a 6-second match, which you never really would think of from some of these takeover events. I mean, I know they used to have like the squash matches back in the day, like when Baron Corbin debuted at TakeOver, his match only lasted like a couple of seconds, or like less than a minute. But nowadays, you don't really notice any of these like takeover shows having like these really like quick or like squash matches. Usually these go like a good like 15, 20, or even in the main event, friggin' almost 50 minutes, which we'll get to that once we get to the main event. But yeah, I thought this was fine. I'm not giving any ratings on any of these matches, but definitely this one I don't think in the Observer would get like a 5-star. Maybe like a star for every second. So maybe it's like half a star for every second. So 6 seconds get you like half a star each second. So not too bad for an opening match. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do for that Fallout episode now. If we thought that this match was supposed to take place on that Fallout episode, then it'll be pretty interesting to see what they do on the Fallout episode. I don't know. Maybe they had a pre-recorded match between these two where it'll be like, okay, let's have a rematch. Because it was interesting. The crowd didn't really react to this match happening. Maybe they were confused, like, wait a minute, didn't we just see this match like a couple minutes ago? So I don't know, we'll have to wait and see for this Wednesday. So the first actual match of NXT TakeOver War Games was Sain versus Shayna Baszler in a 2 out of 3 falls matchup. This was for the NXT Women's Championship. I believe this is now the 5th time that these two have faced off on NXT television. There was the Mae Young Classic Finals. There was that match on NXT TV when Shayna Baszler was in the feud with Ember Moon. There was their match at TakeOver Brooklyn 4. There was Evolution, and now this. So yeah, 5. And I would say that this was the perfect culmination of this whole rivalry. I would assume that there's maybe going to be one more match. I don't know, but we'll talk about it as we get into this match here. But this was a really good opener. I mean, I know the Matt Riddle thing was the actual opener, but I believe that this was a really good, true opener. But yeah, so the match starts. Didn't really take long for Jessamyn Duke and Marina Shafir to get involved there, attacking Kairi Sane on the outside while the referee is like talking to Shayna Baszler, so the ref is distracted. They're tossing her into the ring post and everything, and then they toss Kairi Sane back in the ring. Shayna Baszler locks in the Coquina Clutch, and Kairi Sane taps out, so Shayna Baszler gets that first fall. And then we have some good back and forth. There's some nice near falls and stuff like that. The Coquina Clutch teased again. Kairi Sane tries to do that roll-up pin that she did at TakeOver Brooklyn 4. Doesn't work. And then we get to a point in the match where Shayna Baszler tries to vertical suplex Kairi Sane out on the apron, which... if you're not really that educated, let me bring you up to speed here. The apron is here, get in close. I'll tell you, it's a secret. It's the hardest part of the ring. But yeah, she tries to vertical suplex her on the apron, and Kairi Sane counters it. She doesn't like counter it and then hit a suplex like off the apron herself or onto the apron herself. She counters it while she's like vertical up in the air. She just brings it back down and DDTs Baszler on the apron, spikes her. Like if you play 2K19 and you use that apron DDT, she freaking gets spiked. And you need to see how painful this looks. Just look at the reaction immediately after on Jessamyn Duke and Marina Shafir's faces. That just sums up the entire like pain of that move altogether. So yeah, Kairi Sane then after the DDT, Kairi Sane takes out Jessamyn Duke and Marina Shafir on the outside. She hits the big insane elbow on all of them. They're all like standing up together on the outside. Then she tosses Baszler back in the ring, hits another insane elbow, and she scores the second fall. So now we're tied 1-1. Which kind of I don't really like about some of the 2 out of 3 falls matches, where it's always like predictable 1-1 before like that final fall. But then again, sometimes it can be pretty weird. Like there was the 2 out of 3 falls between the Usos and Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin at the Royal Rumble, and it was just like one fall back to back. But I mean, I feel like that could work here depending on how they did it. But I don't know. That's just a small critique of mine. Also, like the falls were like super quick in between each other. I felt like a good example would be like Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada in their 2 out of 3 falls match. Like their falls were like really far apart, and I feel like this match might have benefited a little bit if they had done it like that, with like the falls being like further between rather than just like the first fall is super quick and then the second fall is even quicker, and then the third fall did come not super quick, but it came quite a bit after. But still, I would have liked it if maybe those first 2 falls weren't as quick. But I mean, minor critique. But yeah, we go into the third and final fall. Shayna Baszler tries to go for a gut-wrench suplex off the top rope. Kairi Sane turns it into like a sunset flip powerbomb. Thankfully, she didn't pull a Seth Rollins and hurt her knee. And then Jessamyn Duke and Marina Shafir try to get involved again. This is when some interesting stuff happened here. We had a run-in from Dakota Kai, the captain of Team Kick. If you guys don't remember, she had like a little storyline where she was like afraid of Shayna Baszler. She was afraid to get into a match with her. So now she's on the side of Kairi Sane, helping her against Shayna Baszler and her cronies. So she's attacking Jessamyn Duke and Marina Shafir, although the numbers game gets advantage of her. And they start beating up on Dakota Kai on the outside. And then Io Shirai, one of the finalists of the Mae Young Classic number 2, came out, and she hit this like beautiful moonsault to the outside onto Jessamyn Duke and Marina Shafir. That takes them out, takes Dakota Kai out and herself out, so it's just down to Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler in the ring. Kairi Sane has Shayna Baszler down. She's going to go for another insane elbow. She hits the insane elbow, but as she lands, Shayna Baszler like hooks her like arm that she hit the elbow with and her neck and rolls her over into like a crucifix pin and then pins her off of that and gets the third fall. So Shayna Baszler wins with this roll-up pin. it seems like very good storytelling if you think about it. From Shayna Baszler's example, she lost to Ember Moon for the NXT Women's Championship via a roll-up. She lost against Kairi Sane via a roll-up, and now she beats Kairi Sane here with what? A roll-up. So I think that's pretty cool now that she's used that roll-up pin as an advantage for herself. But so Kairi Sane loses. Like I said, I would assume that there's going to be one more match between the two. I don't know how far away we are from it, but the way that this was set up, it seems like we're going for a 6-person tag team match here sometime on NXT TV with Shayna Baszler, Marina Shafir, and Jessamyn Duke versus Kairi Sane, Io Shirai, and Dakota Kai. Wow, that kind of rhymed. Yeah, I think that'll be a pretty good match. I'm excited for it. I haven't seen a lot of Jessamyn Duke and Marina Shafir's stuff from like the house show circuit, so it'll be interesting to see them on NXT TV. But yeah, Shayna Baszler, I think this was a good match. I believe I had Kairi Sane in my predictions, so kind of sucks that I got that wrong, but I mean, to each is their own. Up next, we had Alistair Black versus Johnny Gargano here in a grudge match. Alistair Black coming back from his groin injury, or in NXT TV, he came back from being attacked by Johnny Gargano, who is sort of having this like heel turn type of deal, and it continued here. Johnny Gargano came out, he had like some updated Titantrons with this like evil face logo. He had a Punisher outfit on. He was like high-fiving little kids in the crowd, but he was doing it in like such a heel way. And Alistair Black, he came out in this sweet like jacket. He had like these giant horns on it. I thought it was pretty cool. The match begins. Johnny Gargano like slaps Alistair Black, and then Black delivers a kick to Johnny Gargano. They have some really good back and forth. At one point, Alistair Black tries to do his like crisscross like sit in the middle of the ring, and Gargano just, you see him run out of nowhere and just deliver a kick to the side of Alistair Black's head. Like, get out of here with that freaking sit and move. I'm Johnny Takeover. But then Gargano, he starts going after Alistair Black. As you're probably seeing as the thumbnail for this, he's like wrestling more heel. He's delivering more strikes and using these like wear down submission holds on Black. Alistair Black tries to do like an outside moonsault, but Gargano counters. Black lands on his feet. Gargano does a suicide dive DDT to the outside, and that was really good. Fast forward a little bit into the match, Alistair Black hits a springboard Meteora, so he hits a springboard and then his knees like hit him in the face, and then he hits him with a nice bridging German suplex, but only for a 2 count. And Gargano lines up Alistair Black with his like super kick, but then Black just slowly transitions into his little crisscrossed leg pose, and Gargano ends up hitting this super kick, not just the super kick, but he hits him with a super kick and then a running knee like he did to Tommaso Ciampa in Brooklyn, but it's only for a 2 count. And then Gargano, once again, at another point in the match, Black's on the outside. Gargano tries to go for another dive and gets hit by this massive V-trigger from Alistair Black, which the crowd reacted to crazily. Back in the ring, Alistair Black tries to hit the Black Mass. Gargano rolls him up and hits him with the Gargano escape, gets him in the Gargano escape, yet Black is still able to counter. He hits him with a discus knee strike, hits him with another V-trigger, and then hits him with one Black Mass. Gargano is staggering. He's leaning against Alistair Black, and Black looks at him, and he says, "I forgive you," delivers another Black Mass, and Alistair Black wins the match. Alistair Black wins. Yeah, I thought this was the right decision. I believe in my predictions I had Johnny Gargano winning, but either way, I mean, I was not upset here. I think this match, well, personally for me, that's why I put it in the thumbnail, I think this was match of the night. A lot of you may think it was either the NXT Championship match or the War Games match. Personally, I have to say it was Johnny Gargano versus Alistair Black. I just thought it was really good here. Johnny Gargano working heel. It really worked. Alistair Black coming back. He looked a little bit slimmer here, and he had some cool new like gray attire on. I know he's always been wrestling in like the black and the gold, but it was a nice change up to see him in the gray. But yeah, which actually is some good storytelling in itself. Johnny Gargano in this match was fighting like really heelish. He was wearing black and white, but Alistair Black wearing the color of gray, so he's not in his black attire, he's not very evil. He's not all good. He's just a little area of gray in between. So I thought that was a really good little bit of storytelling. But great match, great outcome. This will definitely be high on my list for the top 10 takeover matches of this year. But yeah, I thought it was great. Great stuff. I don't know where they take this with Black saying he forgives Gargano. I don't know where Johnny Gargano goes from here. Alistair Black, I would assume they were going to have a rematch between him and Tommaso Ciampa for the NXT title, but we'll have to see where that goes. Alright, and up next we have Tommaso Ciampa versus the Velveteen Dream for the NXT Championship. Velveteen Dream came out dressed up as Hollywood Hulk Hogan, which playing off of his last TakeOver match, I believe it was against Ricochet, not the one against EC3, but against Ricochet. He was dressed up as like a combination of regular Hulk Hogan and Prince Puma. Here he came out as NWA Hollywood Hogan, since they were near Hollywood. They were in Los Angeles, California, so that sort of made sense. He was doing some of Hulk Hogan's mannerisms. So the match starts, and during their whole like lockup, Ciampa nearly goes over the top rope from like Dream doing just the lockup. I thought that was pretty funny. At one point early on in the match, Tommaso Ciampa like grabs off Velveteen Dream's headband, and so Dream says like, "Fine, you're not gonna give me back my headband." He goes out of the ring and takes the NXT Championship, and I believe he kissed it. He kisses the NXT Championship, which enrages Tommaso Ciampa, but thankfully Dream gets his headband back, and as he's dressed as Hulk Hogan, he hits him with the big boot and tries to hit him with the leg drop, but Ciampa rolls out, and he instead hits a double axe handle off the top rope to the outside. Oh, my phone just went off for some reason. Anyways, Tommaso Ciampa gets advantage, and he starts just laying into Velveteen Dream with like these knee strikes, and like he hits him with this sleeper hold, and the Dream is like drooling all over the mat, which I'm sure has probably been like memed and gifted on the internet right now. By now, I haven't seen any yet, but he ends up hitting the big boot and the leg drop, and the crowd goes crazy for it. He hits a nice spine buster. He delivers like this figure 4 around the ring post, and the referee's out on the outside trying to get Dream to stop it, and in the ring Ciampa's like tapping out, but the referee doesn't see it, so we don't have like a winner there. But he delivers the figure 4 in the ring, but Ciampa's able to counter, and then there's like this suplex spot where they suplex each other over the top rope out down to the floor. And then Tommaso Ciampa at one point tries to do a roll-up pin with the tights, but the referee catches him right beforehand. And then the Dream delivers a super kick and a Dream Valley driver, but just for a 2 count. And then Tommaso Ciampa goes out of the ring. He grabs the NXT Championship, trying to hit Dream with the title. Dream counters and DDTs him onto the NXT Championship, but it's only for a 2 count. And then Tommaso Ciampa hits his draping DDT, but he only gets a 2 count, and so Ciampa takes the floor mat off, so he exposes the concrete on the outside. Dream counters off a attempted DDT onto the floor and shoves Ciampa over the announcer's table, where at the same time Mauro Ronaldo is like talking all this like trash about Tommaso Ciampa, how much of an SOB he is to everything he did to Gargano, and Ciampa gets up and he like throws something at Mauro, and he goes back over to the Dream, and the Dream hits a Dream Valley driver onto the concrete floor. The crowd's going crazy, tosses him back in the ring, hits an elbow drop, lands it only for a 2 count, and then Ciampa rolls out onto the apron again, sort of like where EC3 was when he faced Velveteen Dream in their match, and Dream tries to go for an elbow drop while he's on the apron, misses it, hits his elbow on the apron. He's in pain, he's in a lot of pain. Ciampa tosses him back into the ring, and since this is War Games, they have the 2 rings, and in the center of both the rings, to connect both of them, they have this little metal grate, so Ciampa wraps him up and DDTs him onto that metal grate to the outside, rolls him back into the ring, and Tommaso Ciampa wins. He retains the NXT Championship. I had Velveteen, or did I have Velveteen Dream in my predictions? I don't know. I feel like I had Velveteen Dream in my predictions. If not, then yay me, I predicted right for Tommaso Ciampa. But yeah, this was a great match. Personally, like I said, I preferred Alistair Black versus Gargano, but to any of you that said that this was match of the night, I would not disagree. There were like pretty much all of these matches, maybe except for Matt Riddle versus Kassius Ohno, could definitely be called match of the night. But yeah, I thought this was great. I don't know where Dream goes from here. I thought this would have been a great time for him to have the NXT title. But I mean, if they are doing this whole storyline with Tommaso Ciampa and Gargano, where Gargano's going to come back from being a bad guy, then they probably need Tommaso Ciampa to still be champion in order to do that. And finally, in your main event, we have the War Games match, the Undisputed Era versus Pete Dunne, Ricochet, and the War Raiders. On this past episode of NXT, we had Kyle O'Reilly versus Hanson of the War Raiders to determine who would have the team advantage, Kyle O'Reilly winning that matchup. So now this match was pretty interesting. I was wondering if they would be able to top last year's War Games, and I'll give my opinion on that after I'm done talking about this matchup. But so Adam Cole and Ricochet start out the match. So we have Undisputed Era locked in a cage on one side of the ramp, and then Pete Dunne and the War Raiders locked in another cage on the other side of the cage. And Ricochet and Pete Dunne, they came out and they were wearing like the War Raiders like face paint with them. I wrote down here, at least it's better than Roderick Strong dressing up as the Authors of Pain during the last War Games matchup. That was a very weird sight to see. So the match sort of begins. The real match can't begin until all team members are in the ring. Ricochet hits like a nice springboard uppercut from one ring into the other onto Adam Cole, and then we start getting into all the team members getting in the ring. There was just a lot of like beatdowns during all these segments. Kyle O'Reilly enters the ring first, then Hanson gets in the ring. Pete Dunne wanted to get in the ring, but Hanson held him back and said, no, I'm going to go. Then Roderick Strong entered the ring. Then Rowe of the War Raiders entered. Pete Dunne once again tried to go out, but Rowe said, no, I'm going to go. And then Bobby Fish gets out, and when Bobby Fish gets out, he doesn't go to the ring. He goes over to the cage that Pete Dunne's in, and he like knocks Pete Dunne's head up against the cage and like sort of knocks him out a little bit. Then he takes out a chain and another padlock, and he locks Pete Dunne inside the cage, takes the key, tosses it into the crowd, and then Pete Dunne's locked inside that cage. He can't get out. And then Fish, it was very weird. He goes under the ring before he gets in the cage, and he grabs like some steel chairs out, and these steel chairs have like the Undisputed Era's like logo painted onto them, which I think somebody said this on Twitter. I thought it was very funny. They said, I like the idea of just the night before War Games, Undisputed Era are sitting in their hotel room just painting these steel chairs, thinking like, man, it's gonna look so cool when we have these in War Games. Yeah! I just thought that was very funny. But yeah, they go into the ring, and the Undisputed Era have the advantage through most of it until Pete Dunne eventually gets out of the cage. The referees like found some bolt cutters and like cut off the lock, and Pete Dunne comes out full of piss and vinegar and anger, and he grabs some kendo sticks, trash cans, tables from under the ring, brings them into the cages, and the War Games officially begins. Pete Dunne, like friggin' Kyle O'Reilly, like reaches out of the cage to try and stop Pete Dunne, and Pete Dunne takes his arm and stomps it like he takes the kendo stick and like slams it onto Adam Cole's hand, and then further on in the match, Pete Dunne like takes Kyle O'Reilly's arm and stomps on it in that little metal bit in between the rings. Kyle O'Reilly once again like further on in the match, he like takes another chain and chains up Pete Dunne's leg in like a submission hold, and then Dunne like takes the chain and wraps it up in his arm. But the Undisputed Era, they end up getting control back, and they have like the rest of the babyface team in one ring, and they have Pete Dunne in the other ring like blocked off, and O'Reilly once again has that chain on Pete Dunne's leg in an ankle lock, and then they have Roderick Strong or Bobby Fish with a steel chair like wrenching back on Pete Dunne's face in like a camel clutch, so it's like a double submission hold, and they're trying to keep Ricochet and the War Raiders from breaking it up. But finally they do, thankfully. And then there's this spot where they like set up a table and in between the two rings, and Bobby Fish spears Rowe through the table. But then they come back, and O'Reilly gets placed on a table by, I believe, Ricochet, and Hanson, the big guy from the War Raiders, just hits a big splash through that table, takes out Kyle O'Reilly. And at one point, Adam Cole and Ricochet, they're on top of the cage battling, and then everybody gets involved and hits like this huge, like big, I have it written down here, I have it written down as a super duper ooperplex to Adam Cole. So everybody's down except for Ricochet, and I called this in my predictions. Ricochet is on the top of the cage, everybody starts to like stand up, and then Ricochet hits this double backflip dive, like moonsault, off the top of the cage down onto everybody, and then everybody's knocked down, and then everybody starts to get up there. Each team is in one ring, so Pete Dunne, Ricochet, and the War Raiders are in one ring on one side, and then the Undisputed Era rolled over onto the other side of the ring, and they all stand up together, like leaning on each other as like teams do, and they're looking at each other from across the rings, and they meet each other in the center where that metal bit is. And Mauro Ranaldo, thank goodness he's back, he had the best call of the night for this. He called this trench warfare, and like they're standing off, they're bad-mouthing each other, and then they start brawling. As soon as he called this trench warfare, I was like, I'm so happy he's back. And it was just a great call. I loved it. And then we started getting into this whole bit towards the end of the match where everybody starts hitting their finishers and everything. So the War Raiders, they hit their tag team finisher Fallout. And then the Undisputed Era hit their finisher Total Elimination. And the match ends with Adam Cole trying to super kick Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne, like, I think he like does his little like finger break spot, but he does it with like Adam Cole's foot, so I think it like makes him twist his ankle or something. And then he hits the bitter end on Adam Cole, and then at the same time Ricochet hits a springboard 450 splash, and the match ends with both Pete Dunne and Ricochet pinning Adam Cole for the win, which I predicted Pete Dunne, Ricochet, and the War Raiders pick up the win. So both Pete Dunne and Ricochet win the match for their team. They're looking at each other, and the show goes off the air with Pete Dunne and Ricochet standing on top of the War Games cage, both winners, both with their titles. And I thought this was the best way to go off. Now, personally, I would not say that this is as good as last year's War Games, and that's just a personal choice for me. I don't know what it was. I just didn't think that this War Games match was as good. I still thought it was really good. Don't get me wrong about that. I still think it was freaking amazing. But I don't know. There was just something about this year's War Games that wasn't exactly as special as last year's. Maybe it was just that last year's, like, afterwards, everybody was saying, like, how dangerous it was. There was, like, that spot with Alexander Wolf where his freaking head got cut open. There was a lot of blood. They did recreate the spot with Kyle O'Reilly in the steel chair where it like dinged off the ropes and hit him back in the head. I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, I don't know what it was about this year's War Games. It just didn't seem as good to me. But it's still a great War Games match nonetheless. Really, really good. If I wouldn't put it on I would put it on the same level as last year's War Games match, but just personally between the two, I'd rather watch last year's War Game match than watch this War Games match. But I would not be mad at you if you said that this year's War Games match was better than last year's, because that's just your opinion. So anyways, all in all, a great show for NXT, and everybody says this every time there's another NXT Takeover event the same weekend as a WWE pay-per-view. They always say, like, well, good luck to the main roster. They said it for WrestleMania weekend, Royal Rumble weekend, SummerSlam weekend, Money in the Bank weekend, all of them. They've always said, well, good luck to the main roster. Hopefully they're as good, if not better, than NXT. And once again, I gotta say that. Good luck to Survivor Series tonight. It hasn't started yet. It's like 1 o'clock right now, so they haven't even started their kickoff show yet. I have not been watching Raw or SmackDown a lot recently. I don't think I've watched Raw or SmackDown since they announced Crown Jewel, which, if you guys understand why, then you probably know why. I just haven't really been that interested. I've only been watching, like, NXT and 205 Live, so I'm good in that respect. But yeah, good luck to Survivor Series. I'll probably watch Survivor Series. Maybe it'll give me a reason to get invested again. I did watch SmackDown where Daniel Bryan turned heel, so that was pretty interesting. So yeah, maybe I'll check out Survivor Series. But all in all, I thought NXT Takeover War Games was great. I would say it was the best takeover event of this year, and that's saying something. There's been a lot of great takeover matches this year. My list this year is going to be jam-packed. But what did you guys think of NXT Takeover War Games 2018? Please leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think was match of the night? Let me know in the comments. But thank you for listening to this NXT Takeover review, talking takeover here on the WRESTLEDUDE YouTube channel for War Games 2018. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the year 2019 for the takeover event the same weekend as WWE's Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Other than that, I got nothing else for you. Thank you guys for listening, and I will see you guys next time.